everyone, welcome to MzansiOz Diary. My name is Connie. If you're new here, you're very much welcome. So we have a latest data of the property. Yes, it's consuming us, this property prices. Yeah, the latest data from Domain. Like I said, this thing is a Ponzi. It's being pumped up by these policies. Since the Labor announced that Help to Buy scheme, the property has been rising and steadily rising.
The reality of Australia's housing crisis has been laid bare this morning with the release of Domain's latest pricing data. Here to break it all down is Domain property editor Alice Stoltz. Hey Alice, nice to see you. Before we get into the data, our prospective PMs went head-to-head on housing last night, but detail was a little scant. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was an interesting debate in terms of basically they're both really kind of adding fuel to the fire around demand. And most of the criticism around that is what's going to happen in the longer term. And I think it's a really important question to ask because surely, ideally, am I being too hopeful to say that our politicians should be thinking beyond the next election? And I think that's the issue here. They're both stoking demand and that risks putting up prices even further.
Yeah, short supply costs are only going up, aren't they? It's only going to increase. So tell us about the latest figures then.
Yeah, look, Carl, it's kind of pretty startling figures. We've got a few new records set in Sydney, Adelaide and Perth. Now, the Sydney median is $8,000 off hitting $1.7 million. I just can't quite believe we're already at that point. It's quite staggering. Another entrant to the $1 million club, Adelaide has now cracked the $1 million mark and Perth is likely to be there by the end of the year. The Melbourne market is also now in recovery, so that's encouraging news for, owners there, but it's going to be tougher news for first home buyers there. But really interesting to see just how much those prices in Brisbane and Adelaide are now basically on par with Melbourne.
That is sad. Yeah, that is sad. Now, I have actually calculated a debt to income ratio using a median income, Australia's median income, from the data that produced from ABS 2024. So that data, I used the median instead of average income because average can actually screw the data. So I use the median, and so median is better for prices, house prices, and also any income as well. So now the debt to income ratio, wait for it. If we look at Sydney, we're around close to 25, just above 25. The Canberra is close to about 15 times when you use the median income. The debt to income. So if you were to take a loan for this median house price is given now by Domain, and you take out the median income for each state using the capital city median income, and then look at the debt to income ratio. So this is the data that I found. So it is really huge. Sydney, massive, above 25 times. So average is really misleading. Don't use any average data for income and even for houses because you can get someone who earns a lot of money and then being put in there, and then they say it's an average. Yeah, it can be skewed by an outlier. So median value, it suggests that Sydney above 25 times the median income. Yeah. Canberra, a little bit better, or slightly better, but still not faring good. It's around 14 times median income. And the lowest one, as you can see from that data, you can see just about 12 for Darwin, 12 times the median income for Darwin. For Hobart, again 14, similar as Canberra. And these Hobart and Canberra, the problem is they're not earning the same amount. The reason why is that Hobart is, you've seen that house prices in Hobart a bit lower price than they are in Canberra. It's because of median income. The median income in Hobart is not as higher as in Canberra. So that median income, as you can see, for someone who lives in Hobart, even though the prices looks a bit cheaper, but the income, the debt to income ratio, the median income is much smaller, therefore bringing about a higher debt to income ratio. Perth, just about 15, about 16 mark. And then when you go to Adelaide, Adelaide is about getting to that 20 times. Yeah, wow. Adelaide is actually reaching 20. It's around 18 times median. The debt to income ratio, it is 18 times. When you use the median value, not the average, don't use any average, the median. The median is likely to give you a true income of all Australians. Rather than the average. So in Adelaide, we're close to that 20 mark. And because of our income is not as high as maybe perhaps in Sydney, but Sydney, look at the property prices. So you can see, so Adelaide, Brisbane and Melbourne, similar, kind of like similar, no difference there into debt to income ratio. Just above 15, nearly to 18, it's 18. So who would loan you money if you were looking to buy a property? The bank would only loan somebody if the loan is at the debt to income ratio is 5 times the annual income. We're looking at in Adelaide just 18 times the annual income, the debt to income ratio. Which bank would loan you money? If your debt to income ratio is above that 5 times, which is kind of safety marker for them. So if the debt to income ratio is more than 5 times, it's very unlikely that bank will loan you money. That shortfall must be covered by somebody, either now by a taxpayer or by your bank of mom and dad. And in that bank of mom and dad, the amount you need is getting larger. There's only a few bank of mom and dad would be able to do that if that debt to income ratio is getting that larger. For you to be able to qualify to buy a house on your own right. We should always encourage people to be able to buy houses on their own right, not just any government handouts. You know, it's disempowering young people that they're now going to be lining up for government to give them a handout for a house. While they're able-bodied, they can work full-time. Most of them work full-time. Most of them work multiple jobs. But they cannot buy a house. This is not a healthy economy. This one is not a healthy economy. Something needs to change. They will only loan you 5 times of your yearly income. So you see why I even say that the help to buy scheme is so risky. It's so risky in the way that it's risky and it's also pumping up the house prices because it's increasing the demand for people who wouldn't otherwise qualify to buy houses, but it's doing nothing on actually increasing supply. And also you're bringing more people who are going to need, you're bringing people, migrants, who are coming in a country where there's no house price, no houses, to compete with the population. So that's going to do to their prices? That increase the demand. That is going to increase the price. That's how economy works. If the government doesn't do anything about supply, this housing Ponzi stick scheme is going higher and higher and higher. And I think it will come to the point whereby everything will just happen naturally. And we don't want things to happen naturally, because when things happen naturally, where the price comes down due to something that is not control of the government, this is when we're all going to suffer from it. Because even the people who are in debt, they wouldn't want to have their prices go that low. That's why the price stability should be the fundamental goal, because if you have the prices, you allow this Ponzi scheme to go up and up and higher. It cannot go up forever. It will come down. It will come down by the law of nature. It will come down by the law of nature, because you end up to a point where nobody can afford anything. Nobody can afford to buy. Nobody can afford to rent. And what do you do then? If they don't cap this thing, nip it in the butt. But nobody's prepared to do it, because they all are invested in having this Ponzi scheme to continue. It's beginning to affect everything, how we worked everywhere. It's beginning demographically. This house prices is beginning to affect the Australian economy. But who's going to be the Menzies of the world? Who's going to come up with a reform that's going to be long lasting? There's no leadership here. We got Temu Trumps, we got all the staff who are just not strong enough to provide leadership and to be strong enough to nip this property prices in the rise of the rise in the property prices in bud, so it's sustainable for the nation, for the good of the nation, for the future of Australia. Because this is the one that's going to let Australia down, this property rise, the rise of this property, because it's not many people are going to be able to buy properties, and it's already has cut a lot of people out anyway. The help to buy schemes, it looks at people from middle income earners. Many people aren't even around that 100,000, 80 to 100,000. They're lower than that, lower than 80,000. Most people, when you look at median income. So even now, the help to buy scheme is targeting the people in the upper end of income. So how about those who in the lower income, who are working, low income? What's going to happen to them? How are they going to get their own property? How are they going to start a family? See what I'm saying, this property prices is beginning to affect the Australian society, the economy, everything. So we need to really, I don't see any leader that's coming up with something that actually fundamentally going to change the trajectory of Australia, the way we view properties, and why this rise in property needs strong leadership, needs a leader who is going to go out there with one mission to stabilize the property prices, increase the supply, and ensuring that no one is left behind. So the Prime Minister always say that he grew up as in a housing trust home, which is the housing that's supported by government. I would like to know that, does he think that Australians who cannot afford to buy property would be able to have that opportunity to live in a housing trust home that is supported by government? I don't think so, because many of them are in the waiting list for many years, waiting for a government house. So he was lucky enough, but I don't think that today many Australians are going to be lucky to have an opportunity to have access to housing, public housing supported by government, that actually they pay according to their income. He was lucky, and because it was a different time, but today, not even those people would be able to have that opportunity to live in a home that is funded by the government. Yeah, I would like people to ask him that. So because that's one of the DI things that he mentioned all the time when he wants people to elect him, to look at his socio-economical status and his background, where he came from a single mother and raised in public housing. How many single mothers are able today to raise their kids in a public housing? See how he had actually an easy life than most single mothers today. Many single mothers cannot raise their kids in a public housing because the waiting list is many years, 30 years, 50 years. See, this is the problem. Big problem. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Until next time, see ya.